This video is sponsored by War Thunder. Halo 4 LASO is the worst thing I've ever done, and I once binge-watched the entire Halo show for a video. Trying to beat Halo 4 on LASO was even worse than watching the awkward romance scene between Master Chief and Draco Malfoy while Cortana sat in the cuck chair. I'm a frog, and this is Halo 4 LASO, which stands for Legendary All Skulls On. Skulls are just game modifiers that make it significantly harder. So if you thought plain old Halo 4 Legendary was bad, just imagine that but about 20 times harder. And you're lit on fire. Let's hop in. Our journey begins in 2557 BBY with the torn-up ship floating in space an unknown amount of time after Halo 3, during which Cortana transformed into walking clickbait and Master Chief's suit turned into a war crime. Chief gets woken up, busts out of his cage, grabs Bonnie Blue for the road, and away we go into Halo 4. Like always with LASO and games not named Combat Evolved, the most noticeable thing right away is that you can't see my gun or heads-up display, which is stuff like my shields, reticle, ammo, and so on. That's because of everyone's favorite skull, Blind, which hides it all. The Blind skull also means that when I got my first QuickTime event, there wasn't a button prompt on screen. Thankfully, I'm not a gaming journalist, so I was able to remember that you just tap right bumper once to kill him. I found another elite in a very smackable position. Get killed, idiot. But then I had a bunch of grunts to deal with. I thought I had a pistol, but I didn't, which is a problem because of the mythic skull that gives enemies double the health. So trying to just use an AR is very inefficient even against grunts. I did find a pistol eventually though and began tearing through the little ones like Anakin Skywalker. One thing I'll mention right off the bat, I know it's hard to believe with the incredibly skillful gameplay you're about to witness, but I did not use guides for this playthrough. This was all my own strategizing and me figuring things out as I went along. Cortana stared at me with crazy eyes, and then our ship got boarded. Because of the Thunderstorm skull, almost every elite in the campaign is max rank, and against these gold elites, plasma pistol overcharges were not very effective. Even more so when I could only get 2 or 3 overcharges per plasma pistol because of the famine skull that makes dropped weapons have half as much ammo as usual and causes 1/8 of the Irish population to starve to death. I tried rushing an elite and died for the first time of many. I quickly saved and quit to bypass the iron skull, which on solo means you restart the entire level if you die. Saving and quitting real fast lets you go back to just the previous checkpoint though. On co-op, the skull works differently and you don't have to save and quit, but unfortunately all of my friends who I asked to play Halo 4 LASO with me blocked my number. This was probably the second hardest fight of the level for me, although a lot of that was just because it was my first real fight and I was figuring things out. Also mention, overcharges suck in Halo Reach LASO 2, but as I learned in that game, tap firing is OP. That wasn't the case here. Plasma pistols just overall are not good for elites. What I eventually figured out is that basically the only viable way of killing elites is by backsmacking them. Unfortunately, their hitboxes are also weird, so depending on how they're standing, this doesn't always work and you have to hit them from weird angles for the insta-kill. One benefit of backsmacking elites is that it plays into the black guy skull where your shields don't recharge unless you melee an enemy. So backsmacking an elite kills the elite and recharges your shields. It's very copacetic. It's like a symbiont circle. I spent a few more minutes in this fight repeatedly dying and ignoring an invite from the grave because I don't play with losers. I kept clearing every enemy except the second elite, but just could not finish him off until eventually, of course, I did, or else you wouldn't be watching this video. Nonetheless, with this experience, I now knew that elites were not to be trifled with in Halo 4 LASO. What is bro doing? Enemies don't throw grenades at all in the previous section, but now that I'd progressed enough, they were spamming them because of the catch skull that makes enemies throw more grenades. The bright side is that when an enemy is throwing a grenade, that means they aren't shooting at you, making it much easier to run up on them for a backsmack. There are more skulls, but that's the last one I'm gonna explain because I'm lazy. At this point, I was still trying to shoot the elites like an idiot and having moderate success, which means I was dying several times in each fight before finally advancing. I was introduced to everyone's favorite space bird adversary, jackals. Hitting them in the hand with a magnum doesn't cause them to flinch on LASO, at least not on full health, so I was having to find other ways to get them to show their big, beautiful beaks. After killing all the miners, there were 3 elites guarding the door to the next area. This, I would say, was the toughest fight of the level and the one that forced me to adapt to just backsmacking the elites because it simply wasn't possible to be trying to play safe. This took many attempts, but eventually I was able to stab, ring around a Rosie, and mount the 3 elites to advance. Afterwards, you go into outer space, and I died a couple times, but this part was easy. I now had an invitation from Dabble Dooya, which I also ignored. Master Chief kicked a thing, which launched a nuke at the Covenant, then the big metal planet opened its hole and vacuumed everything inside, which meant it was time to run back inside to safety. The mission is basically over at this point. There's no more fighting, and you just run through hallways. You've got to be f***ing... I have never in my life died during this part before. I don't know how that happened. Nor have I died again since because I made it through the next time just fine and Chief flew around in outer space before getting clobbered by a piece of debris breaking every bone in his body, leading to the rest of the game being a hallucination while he floats around in space. Level 2 Requiem starts with a cutscene where Chief and Cortana discuss Cortana's deteriorating health from an unfortunate condition called being a woman. Chief assures her that he can fix her. Everyone loves this cutscene, I'm not sure why. I ran through the wreckage, killed a poor grunt, and grabbed a useless useless plasma pistol. I looked at the pretty scenery, then hopped in a Warthog even though I didn't have a gunner. When I got to the first combat section of the level, I hung back and got headshots on grunts. In past LASO videos, you may recall, I would put a piece of tape on my monitor where the reticle would be to help me get headshots, but for this video, I upgraded and got a virtual reticle. This may or may not have just been the result of me not wanting to get up to go to the kitchen to get tape. Ammo is famously a problem in Halo 4. If you go to the comment sections on any of my Halo 4 videos, half the comments are, Cortana's hot, and the other half are, 343 ruined my childhood. But approximately 6.3% of the 343 ruined my childhood comments will also mention that this game is really sparse on ammo. So with that in mind, I did my best to conserve and scavenge ammo, like here where I used the Warthog turret, grabbed ammo out of crates, and assassinated bad guys. So far on Requiem, no deaths. Yet, which continued all the way through the next section. I fought some Sangheili, Kigyar, Patar, and Grunts before making my way onto a structure where I faced off against a Sword Elite who rushed me and whose shields I couldn't take down fast enough. He swung at me and I paused my game because I thought I was just dead, except he missed, so I unpaused and killed him. I'm insane. I grabbed an active camo, which I completely forgot about until the last area, hit a computer that spawned a big blue circle, pressed this button, shot a couple guys, pressed this button, shot a couple more guys, and died for the first time this level. Rip the deathless attempt, Jervalen wins again. I don't even know who Big Unit 4125 is. I died so many times here I can't even count. Actually, only twice. Until I finally killed the elites, then Chief and Cortana went back to the terminal where I failed the eye tracking challenge, and we continued on to a bridge that reminds me of Assault in the Control Room, except I died a bunch here, and when I play Halo 1, I never die except when I'm on the last level of a deathless run and stick myself. You have to be The worst part of the bridge was probably entirely self-inflicted, where there were banshees flying around and I was scared, so I shot them both down on foot using regular guns. And as you can imagine, this took a very long time. The final area of Aliens vs. Predator, Requiem, has a couple ghosts and turrets and goons as far as the eye can see, which for me isn't far, I wear glasses. And this was finally the part of the level where I remembered that I had active camo, which I hadn't used at all prior, but I used it here to inch my way up towards the ghosts where I could then hijack them or shoot the drivers depending on my mood. Back when this game first came out, this was the area that dissuaded me from trying to beat this game on Legendary. Like, I could not get past this part. In hindsight, I was just bad because even on LASO, this wasn't too bad, although I still had my fair share of deaths. I encountered another sword guy who I couldn't just dodge, so after trial and erroring, I lit him up with the good old-fashioned needler. The rest of the level was more of the same, headshotting grunts, punching elites, then fuel rodding a couple hunters. Thankfully, 343 gives you a ton of ammo here. I took a magical elevator that led me to a bright light before another cutscene played where a chief walked on a bridge, things lit up, Cortana did beep boobs, robot aliens appeared, and we jumped through a portal to finish the level. This one took me well over an hour, not even counting my time saving, quitting, and reloading. Next up was the level Forerunner. The previous level, Requiem, had a bit of vehicle combat, but this is where vehicle combat really gets introduced. Do you like vehicle combat, audience member?
It's alright, I guess.
Of course you do. And that's why you should check out War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, which is now available on PC, consoles, and mobile devices, and best of all is FREE, that spells free to play. There are over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, Rip Kobe, and ships from 10 major nations you can control. War Thunder has a comprehensive customization system that lets you make your vehicle yours, with camouflages, historical markings, decorations, and skins, including community-created ones. Play War Thunder today by using my link in the pinned comment or description. For PC and console users, if you're a new player or a returning player that hasn't played in the last 6 months, you'll get a bonus pack that has several premium vehicles, the exclusive decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. This is a limited time offer though, so don't dilly-dally. Thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Forerunner is a very purple level, but more importantly is very tough, and I was mentally prepared to want to kill myself. Chief and Cortana use a terminal, while I try my hardest to not make any more comments that'll get me called a simp. I wandered outside and was attacked by a pack of robo pit bulls, but thankfully I'm not a toddler and they died at just a single headshot. Boop. In Halo 4, the Flood were replaced by an enemy that somehow is even less fun to fight. Along with the dogs, there are Watchers who fly around, but the main foe are Knights, which are just the elite equivalent. One positive, besides my recent test results, is that the Knights seem to throw even more grenades than elites, making them easier to run around and backsmack. I wasn't without my deaths though. But either way, at this point, I was only 1,999,974,521 points behind Smoked Remix on the MCC scoreboard, and I was determined to beat him. Unfortunately for me, the next area featured a knight with a shotgun, which kinda complicated the whole backsmack strategy. So my next life, instead of backsmacking him, I employed the run past everything to the next area strategy, which worked like a charm. There are 2 areas where you have to destroy 3 power cores, and these are the 2 worst areas in the level. My first attempt here, I tried to hang back and died. So my next attempt, I rushed and also died. My third attempt featured a half-hearted rush attempt and another death. Then on attempt number 4, I camped inside the door without going outside, and this was the correct move. Once a sufficient number of tennis ball chasers were dead, I moved in and hit the lone knight from the back before destroying Power Core 1. On my way to Power Core 2, another knight killed me a couple times before I got the best of him and destroyed Power Core 2. Power Core 3 had one knight in the way who I expertly eliminated, but once you destroy Power Core 3, a few more spawn, and this meant a few more deaths. But with me saving and quitting, I could take as many deaths as I needed to get through this and just had to win a battle of attrition. I can remain a sweaty Halo player longer than they can stay solvent. On the structure after I had moved up, there was another shotgun knight who I was terrified of, so I once again just ran by in advance, leaving him alive. Master Chief pulled a thing, the Covenant made an appearance, and I ran outside where there's a big multi-faction battle between the Covenant and the Prometheans, which I tried to run through and died. Shooting a couple guys first was all I needed to do differently, and that allowed me to progress the second time. I grabbed a ghost, drove completely past another encounter, and found myself in the worst part of the level, where there are ghosts, banshees, ghouls, goblins, and sleep paralysis demons like this one that punched me in the face. One time when I had sleep paralysis, I opened my eyes and saw the beak part of one of those Plague Doctor masks above me, so it was like there was a Plague Doctor behind me leaning over me. Ah, hell nah, SpongeBob took too many Benadryls. Speaking of Benadryl, this game's campaign almost made me fall asleep. Like I was saying, this part of the level sucks. All the enemy vehicles everywhere are the main culprit, but it also doesn't help that every other Covenant on the fucking map was shooting me as well. The strat you can probably glean from the footage I've shown so far.
Unless you're stupid.
I kill an elite before he gets in a Banshee, so I have one less to fight, then steal that Banshee and fly onto the structure for cover. Until one attempt where I said F-word this and ran off the structure to grab a ghost and go to Power Core 1 with 2 Banshees still in the air. There was also another ghost left, but he was right by the door and I could just board him. Speaking of board, in this video I played Halo 4 LASO. After taking out the second Power Core, I shot the third from across the way, then tried commandeering another Banshee and making a break for it. Unfortunately, I parked the Banshee in such a way that it blocked my path and I died. Then I did it correctly and made it through. We are so back. Kansas City Chief pulls another thing, then we go through a big portal that takes us outside a giant metal orange ball, even though the rest of the level before this was purple, for whatever that's worth. I don't know where I was trying to go with that. Eventually, I made it to the end where there were a couple elites and a couple of knights, one of which had a shotgun, which intimidated me. So I bolted to the last terminal while they were still alive, and one of the knights threw a grenade as I activated the terminal, and I was terrified that I would die right before the cutscene and get sent back to the start of the level from basically the end. Thankfully, that didn't happen. If it did, you wouldn't be watching this video because I would have uninstalled this game and done a Republic Commando video instead. Master Chief talked to the giant 8-ball, and just when we thought things couldn't get any worse, it spat out the big bad guy of the game. I bet he's gonna look sick. Oh. He looks like one of the aliens from that old Tracy Morgan prank show, Scare Tactics.
If you haven't mastered even these primitives, then man has not attained the mantle.
The mantle? I love Agalok. I made that exact same reference in my other Halo 4 video, and I'm repeating it here because it's a really good one. I don't care. The level ends with ghost driving. I didn't crash or die or anything. It's not hard, just follow the path. Or don't, I can't make you do anything. Or can I? I drove through a portal and Chief nearly drove off a cliff, and oh wow, it's the Infinity, and it got sucked into the planet's atmosphere or whatever. I wasn't really paying attention. I was absolutely shocked that that level took me under an hour, but I'll take it. Master Chief walked around the rainforest until he found the Infinity being scanned by the giant marble, and level 4, also called Infinity, began. In a regular playthrough, this is considered the longest mission in the game. LASO obviously changes the equation a bit. Let's see how it goes here. Spoiler alert, not well. We begin with another Prometheus fight, except this time the dogs and knights are orange instead of blue, significantly decreasing their aura. Get back smacked, you stupid dog. Not you. I killed the lone knight of this group before getting reminded that Watchers are the worst enemies in the game when the Watcher immediately revived the knight, which of course led to me getting dead. The downside of taking your time killing everyone before moving up is that when you do die, the wasted time stings that much more. I died a second time, but as always, except when it isn't, third time was a charm and I backsmacked the knight, then the Washer before he could use his revive ray. The next area was more of the same, no big deal. Then there's a part where there's mist and you're supposed to use Promethean vision, even though you can easily see through the mist and just headshot everyone, and then again just run behind the knight and backsmack him while he throws a grenade. The area was clear, I pushed up and got more spawns, died from a Promethean grenade, the first person ever to do so, go, and didn't have a checkpoint and went all the way back to the start of the mist section. Classic Halo checkpoint moment. On try 2, I got jump scared and killed by a sniper. You know who else got killed by a sniper? That's right, John F. Kennedy. Try 3 was yet again the winner, and I got through because this part thankfully wasn't really that hard. I made my way to a structure where Chief met Pete Buttigieg and a Spartan lady that only exists for the terrible Spartan Ops mode that I'm never doing a part 2 of for the record, sorry to kill your hope. I activated a terminal for an achievement, then resumed my effort to stop the bad guys from tearing down the forest to build a Walmart. I had my deaths along the way, but for the most part this was all fine. Until I got to this area where you're supposed to hold out against waves of Prometheans. This sucked and I died a ton of times. All my friends were dead, so I was on my own. And as I learned, it's not like kill 2 guys, then more guys start coming. No, whether you kill 1 wave or not, the next wave will be coming, so if I didn't kill guys fast, I would just get overwhelmed. And it's super fun when a watcher would bring the knights I killed back to life. God, I love this enemy design, so much fun. Eventually, I figured out the spawn pattern for the first few knights and got a decent rhythm for backsmacking them all right away. There were still more knights afterward, plus robo-dogs and flying guys, but this was at least something. Several minutes into this section, after doing my opening strat, I tried running away out of the area completely to regroup. This kinda backfired and let the knights all stare at me, but after killing all the non-knights, I had no choice but to rush in and try my luck. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. The next area shows Prometheans working with Covenant. What a twist. I got a bit ahead of myself here and got blown up by a plasma grenade. No big deal, my checkpoint shouldn't be that far away. And I'm at the beginning of the holdout section again. All right.
Frog, you gotta give us more LASO content. It'll be so good. Please play Halo 4. Ugh.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna crash out.
Police officers in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, were asking people to be on the lookout for a man who robbed a store. We do have his description. Can we take that? Let's take his description.
After getting bailed out by PETA, I resumed my attempts and was able to once again get through the holdout. And this time I advanced slowly to hopefully make sure I got a checkpoint. After dying in the next area again, I was really nervous, but had a checkpoint. Let's go. We are so back. I killed the rest of the enemies here, then got picked up by a pelican. The screen turned black, then unblackened in a brand new area where I was given a tank. This game's tank is a direct copy paste of the Halo Reach tank, which I'm not complaining about because the Halo Reach tank is great. The tank sections on every LASO I've done are always the easiest part of the playthrough. You just sit back and blow people up, and it's not too different than just regular old Legendary. Speaking of Legendary, do you know what else is Legendary? You, unless you're a Redditor. I made my way inside the USS Indianapolis, where I was gifted with a Mantis, by far the best new addition to Halo 4's sandbox. Similar to the tank, this Mantis part wasn't hard at all. The Mantis has shields, but I guess they aren't affected by Black Eye because they would recharge once I stopped getting shot. I did have a death here though. I wanted to melee an enemy to death before the last area to regen my own shields, but as I was exiting the Mantis, it got stuck and I blowed up. Next life, I successfully beat an enemy to death, so I went into the final area outside with completely full shields and a fully functional Mantis. I remembered this part being kinda tricky on plain old Legendary, but I guess I was just bad at the game because I did a deathless this time and it wasn't hard at all. You do have to watch out for phantoms coming in and firing at you though. But yeah, I blew some deals up, pressed a button, drove the orb away. Chief and Cortana had a meeting with Lasky and Captain Del Rio, who's antagonistic for no reason except to add forced drama to the story, and that was Infinity done, the longest mission to this point. In the next cutscene, Del Rio stares off in the sunset. Then in the Pelican, we have a meeting where he condescends to the main character of the franchise, and level 5 Requiem begins with us in the desert. This level is interesting because the majority of it just takes place on this giant vehicle called a mammoth. For some reason, the first officer of the Normandy stands on top of it where he could easily be sniped, but no matter because as military people say, we're on the move, or Oscar Mayer. The mammoth has missile turrets on either side you can shoot bad guys with, and a giant turret. Except the laser gun to mark targets for it was behind enemy lines for some reason, and my first time leaving the mammoth was to go retrieve it. My first attempt, I targeted a phantom right after grabbing it, which was a mistake. So my second attempt, I just grabbed it and drove back to the mammoth right away. Easy enough. Let's see what the cannon can do.
Target acquired.
Welcome to your Kodak moment, Didac. You're supposed to stay outside and fight off phantoms and banshees, but instead I hid inside where they couldn't get me. Then we got to another area where I was supposed to hop off and destroy a few shield generators. I slow played it and took out as many enemies as I could from afar before moving in, and utilized a new weapon called a rocket launcher. After punching the first shield to no results, I ran it over and moved on to the second, and immediately got stuck and died. And my checkpoint was when we first got to the area and I hadn't killed anyone yet. Splendid. But I needed to stick to the plan and be slow and safe. As Obi-Wan Kenobi said, patience. Use the Force. Think. This was 5 minutes after he threw himself out of the window of a 3,000-story building to catch a flying robot, but still. There was a Wraith guarding the final shield, and I was terrified of dying and having to go back a long way again, so I played it as carefully as possible and fired rockets from far away, then hopped on one of the missile pods where I'd fire a few and run away. This took a few minutes, but worked like a charm. I had to get back on the Mammoth to continue the level, but unfortunately, whoever designed this level is a silly goose, and the ramp was closed on the Mammoth, which meant I couldn't drive the Warthog back on and had to leave it, as well as the Marines in it behind. But in the next area, there's a Goss Warthog at least that comes with its own Marine, so it wasn't all bad. I did more slow playing here by using the missile pod on the Mammoth, then camping on the Goss Hog from inside the Mammoth and shooting enemy vehicles from there. Then a strange Covenant ship appears that looks like a June bug, and I had to board it. The first challenge was getting past the enemies guarding it, which included a couple elites. But what I learned is that elites are vulnerable to something called getting run over. Get punched in the face, idiot. The fight inside the ship was even worse because there's very little space or cover, so the elite here would just rush me and I'd be cooked. It took me quite a few attempts to get past him until I eventually just used a needler and started blasting. I destroyed the power core and the ship was gonna blow. Cortana told me to get out of the ship ASAP, so I jumped off, and there is absolutely no way, dude. After clearing the ship and blowing up the power core again, this time I moved back down to the lower level of the ship before jumping off, and I aimed for a higher place to land. Thankfully, this time I lived. We rode the Mammoth some more, then departed with it for good as I moved through this sniper alley area with Jackal snipers aplenty, but it was all Jackals and Grunts, so that's actually pretty good. Until I moved up far enough that the K9 unit appeared. I'll be honest though, at this point, I wasn't scared of the Prometheans at all. After you kind of get the hang of the Knights, they're so much easier to kill than the Elites, like not even a contest. The Elites are the toughest enemy in this mode, and the Knights are really easy to just run behind and assassinate. I put down the dogs, took the trash called Knights out, posted an Officer Bonk meme that no one understood, and moved inside the strange structure where Sentinels were flying around, and after putting Cortana in a computer, she vanished and I had to find her. Which brought me to a beam of light where a Voldemort lady with a stupid hat called the Librarian, even though there wasn't a single book in sight, told Master Chief about Evil Monster Man and the Prometheans before sending us on our way to get Cortana and fight more of them, which were easy. The level ends with another tank section, also easy. We called in a Predator drone on a Promethean thing, then returned to the ship where we had another meeting where the captain continues to talk down to Master Chief, then Cortana gets mad and yells, and the captain yells at Chief, and Chief is stoic. It's like a Soy Jack and Giga Chad meme. That level was even longer for me than Infinity at over 90 minutes, which I was not prepared for at all. I thought it would be a breather. Cortana stares off into the sunset and thinks about her craziness, and Lasky shows up and says he got them a pelican. To get serious for a second,
Hey, wacky dog, say something funny.
actually, I have something serious on my mind today. Make sure when playing games to stay well hydrated. There's never a bad time to take a drink of water. I'll go ahead and take one during this cutscene.
Come on, Chief. Take a girl for a ride.
I began the level by trying to trade weapons with one of these guys to get a DMR, only for it to not work. So I just killed one and grabbed it off the ground. Shutdown is famously a terrible level that's boring and feels like filler. So after getting in the Pelican and having the freedom of flight, I flew to an area where you can do a skip, or at least attempted to. Like I said earlier, I wasn't using guides and was just going off memory, and my memory was fuzzy. But eventually I found what I was looking for and exited the Pelican to enter the last building super early, skipping at least half the mission, probably more than that. It's called We Do a Little Skipping. This building was easy. There were a few guys here and there or whatever. I died a couple times. A couple hunters showed up, so I grabbed an incineration cannon and blasted the first one off a ledge, which actually got me an achievement, then just shotgun and punched the second one in the back the old-fashioned way. Upstairs, I grabbed a Banshee and flew past everyone. Then went to an observatory with Cortana, who was really losing it at this point. John Halo jumped off the building and landed on one of the ships and went through a portal, and just like that, I was done with Shutdown, the shortest mission by far at under half an hour. Chief steals a shuttle and lets Cortana drive, but she gets emotional and they crash, and level 7 Composer began, which is my favorite level in the game on a regular playthrough. I think it's great in its own right, not just by Halo 4 standards. The combat kicked off with me taking out Jackals and Grunts, then I went to backsmack an elite but got insta-killed by a Jackal sniper. I thought this was Halo 4, not Halo 2. I died a couple times trying to clear this area out. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. Let me jump ahead to the next area, the hangar. Oh my Lanta. This section has wave after wave of Covenant. We have had plenty of that throughout this playthrough. However, on this one, my last checkpoint of the area had a few Jackals, a couple Grunts, but most importantly, 4 elites, who, after I killed the other enemies, would all fall back and huddle together. So they'd be far away where I couldn't backsmack them, and even if I did somehow get close to one, the other elites would be around too, and they'd just shoot me. I died here so many times. In game time, I spent about 40 minutes in the hangar. In real time, counting saving and quitting and reloading the level, I was trying this one area for well over an hour, and I'd given up hope. I actually just took a break from playing entirely for a bit and touched grass. When I returned from the grave and Dabble Dooya, we're still playing Halo, but more importantly, when I loaded up Composer, for some reason it started me back at the beginning of the level. I was so mad by Mercer Mayer. Actually, that's not the end of the world. I had a really bad checkpoint, as you saw, and thought restarting might have been what I needed to do anyway. So I fought my way back, no real problems to speak of there, and made it back to the hangar. This time I realized you could activate the switch to close the hangar doors right away. You don't actually need to wait and clear everyone. And the sooner you hit the button, the fewer enemies come in, so you have less to fight. So I revised my plan and thinned out the Covenant somewhat and then made a break for it. There were 2 elites and 4 jackals, which wasn't great, and I died just running to the button a couple times, but this was definitely better than having 4 elites alive all camping the button. I had a few deaths where I hit the button and then didn't survive afterwards, but I knew at this point that this was the winning strategy. My favorite part of this strategy was blowing elites off of ledges with the Needler. About 13.5 minutes into the level, I succeeded by hitting the button and surviving afterwards, and could finally advance to the next area and see more of this level besides the stupid hangar. As a secondary to the DMR, I continued carrying the Needler because there was lots of ammo for it everywhere and it could actually kill elites or at least take down their shields. I moved up through here and knocked another elite off a ledge, only for me to get killed by a box. Further ahead, I encountered a couple hunters who I killed yet again with the old shotgun backsmack strategy, then met Dr. Tilson, an interesting new character who I'm sure will become a staple of the games going forward. None of the level past the hangar was that tough. Obviously, it's all tough. I'm playing on LASO, and I died many more times, but at this point, I was comfy playing this game's LASO, even having to deal with the elites. There's a couple areas where waves of Covenant come in through airlocks, but you can cold equations them by ejecting them out of the airlock into the vacuum of space. I found a couple stealth elites and was very glad I had my trusty Needler, because otherwise, I don't know how I would have handled them. Fight some more guys in a hallway, then we have another mana section that I remembered being tricky, but wasn't at all. I don't know what happened with these mana sections in the past for me to remember them being hard. They're not. The level ends with a big orange light, and then a cutscene plays where Cortana can't do a thing, and the Didact gives Dr. Tilson and the other scientists a really bad sunburn, and Cortana is real sad after.
They'll pair you with another AI. Maybe even another Cortana model if Halsey lets them.
That's not going to happen.
That one didn't age quite so well.
So this attempt at Composer was under an hour, but counting my first run that got reset, it was obviously a lot longer than that. Moving on. Chief takes a spaceship, and the final level, Midnight, begins with flying that ship on the outside of the much bigger Didact ship. I had a death a minute in, seemingly from crashing, even though I didn't hit anything. This space section is cozy. It's not like Long Night of Solace on Reach. You're on a linear path until the end where you fly around in circles a bit. Easy enough. Then we go inside the ship for the meat of the level. The previous level, Composer, was all Covenant, and this one is all Prometheans, which I was perfectly fine with. It's funny how I remember teleporting knights always being annoying in this game's campaign, but with me rushing and backsmacking them all, this just wasn't even part of the game. So if you were wondering about that, I never had to deal with the knights teleporting. At least not in the ways that I would remember, where like I'm about to kill one and then he teleports away. The only really bad enemies were still the Watchers, but even then they were mostly a non-issue outside of my earlier experiences on Infinity. Cortana teleported me to a room that had a gravity hammer, among other things. This fight took me a few tries. I'm not sure why, because it was more of the same. I think I was just getting impatient and ready for it to be over with. There's a holdout section where you fend off infinite waves of robo-dogs, then have to run to a portal while they continue to spawn, which was one of the hardest parts of the level. Mostly because I was trying at first to save ammo instead of just unloading. Then the infight where Cortana multiplies herself and we run around and backsmack even more knights. This area has a ton of them. And I died a few times, but I'm not gonna BS you and act like this was some incredibly challenging part or anything. It wasn't. I did this entire end part in less than 20 minutes. Like I said earlier, the knights are really easy to backsmack. If you swap them out for elites though, this would probably be one of the hardest parts of any Halo game on LASO, but as it stands in reality, this level was pretty anticlimactic in terms of difficulty. And that's not a complaint, by the way. I'm definitely not complaining about that. Nor is it humble bragging. Literally just heed the frog's advice. Just run around the knights and backsmack them. It's not complicated. Chief goes on a light bridge and Didact force chokes him until a bunch of Cortana clones awkwardly appear and Chief sticks the Didact with a grenade. Fall off into oblivion, idiot. Chief hits a nuke, but Cortana saves him and they have a scene where they talk face to face and she touches him, now Kith. And Cortana says bye because she's dying and will never appear in another Halo game ever again. And that's Midnight and 5137 to complete Halo 4 LASO. I unlocked the achievement for beating Halo 4 LASO called Naked Tyrant, named after Naked Eli and Mythic Tyrant. And I unlocked the LASO Master achievement for completing the LASO playlist for every game. Even though I haven't done ODST yet, but whatever, I'll take it. Every great journey begins with a single step. This is our beginning. Thanks for trusting us with the universe you love and joining us on this epic adventure, 343 Industries.
That one didn't age quite.
Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. You can play it for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or on mobile using my links in the pinned comment or description. On PC and console, if you're a new player or haven't played in 6 months, you'll get a bunch of free stuff too, including premium vehicles at 100,000 Silver Lions, so check it out. If you like this video, check out some of my other banger videos. I even have a whole playlist of these LASO challenges. We'll see if I ever do another one. And shout out to my patrons like always. Toodaloo.